Well, it looks like we're only a couple of days away from our next national election, and it's a significant one. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about core values that people have. I know most of you have made up your mind which candidate you're going to vote for, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or someone else. And I know that there's a portion of you who haven't really made up your mind, and you're going to wait to the last minute to make up your mind about it. So I thought I'd give you some food for thought about values and maybe trying to match your values with either of the two candidates. My name is Dr. Harvey Robbins. I've been a psychologist for over 40 years, and I've worked with leaders around the world in business and in government, helping them try to figure out how to improve their competency, understanding their own core values, if you would, also. And so I thought I'd put this video together to help you explore what your values are. You may not even know what your values are. You might think you do. But I thought I'd cover a few minutes of some ideas to help you figure out what your core values are and how to match them up in this upcoming election. There is a gentleman by the name of Ray Edwards who talks about values a lot, and he mentions this company called Culture Sync. And Culture Sync has this process that they use to help people discover what their values are, and they use an exercise called mountains and valleys. It's a very neat exercise. I've done it myself. And this exercise has you graph out on a line a timeline from when you first became an adult, for example, to your current time frame. And you put points on the timeline where you've had significant events in your life, things that have changed the way you thought about things, things that have changed your life, both positively and negatively. So you point out all those points that were just really positive, beneficial, exciting, successful points in your life, and you graph those out. And you also graph out what are the most significant negative events that have occurred in your life. And he has you take a look at each one of those events, both the positive ones, and actually taking a look at all the positive ones together one at a time. And what was it about this positive event that was so meaningful for you? What made it so positive? What was the value that you got out of that particular significant event that was so meaningful for you? And also, when you look at all the negative events, what was missing that made those events so negative? What did you rather have had in there that would have made them positive, but they weren't there, so they were negative events? And when you graph out all the positive events and all the negative events, and you look at the values that were there that made the positive events positive, and the missing values that were in the negative events, what made them so negative, it gives you an idea of maybe what your, and you can list out these, what your values might be. For example, when I took this exercise, I was thinking about, well, a significant event in my life was when I got my doctorate degree. I thought, okay, now I can start my career. And I thought about what was it that made that so significant for me. Well, I remember when I got my bachelor's degree, I thought I was okay, like everyone else who got a bachelor's degree. And then when I got my master's degree, I thought, man, I'm the smartest person on the planet. You know, I'm God's gift. And it wasn't until 4 years later, after doing 4 years worth of research to get my doctorate, that I realized how much I didn't know and how much I appreciated the input and the knowledge of other individuals. So from that, I realized that one of my core values is that I appreciate the gifts and knowledge of other individuals, and I love collaboration. I love to collaborate with others and get their input in order to get outcomes achieved. That's very meaningful for me. The Culture Sync also talks about two types of values. They talk about tribal values and core values to you as an individual. Now, when I look at this, I look at tribal values as Democratic values and Republican values. Those are big categories. You know, what do the Democrats value more than anything else in terms of social networking, networks and safety nets, and making sure that everyone is taken care of almost in a socialistic kind of way. The government will take care of you, and you don't really have to fend for yourself, versus the Republican values of independence and self-achievement and individualism, if you would, and capitalism. Two very different global sort of big pots of values. Underneath each one of those big global tribal values, there are individuals in there that have a whole range of their own personal values in there. For example, I could believe more in fiscal responsibility, which is a sort of a tribal conservative Republican value, but at the same time appreciate having the government stay out of people's business. Protecting the environment is important to me, even though that might not be a Republican sort of value. It may be more of a Democratic kind of global value, tribal value. But each of us has a whole range of individual personal values that can lie on either camps or all in one and part of another. So, you have more flexibility with your own personal core values. So what I want you to think about for this election coming up in 2 days, it's now Sunday, on Tuesday you're going to make a significant decision. If you put away all of the mud that everyone's slinging at each other, calling each other names, cutting the other person down, it gets so much noise that you can't think about who to vote for. And a lot of people I know are sort of throwing their hands up in the air and sort of giving up and not voting, which would really not be a good thing to do. You should go out and vote, but use your personal core values. And if you can't believe that your core values match with either of the two candidates, then you might fall back on the tribal values. Do you believe more in government intervention in everyone's lives? Do you believe in more fiscal responsibility and independence in the Republican sort of camp? So if you can't vote for either of the individuals because the disapproval ratings are so high, try to vote for maybe the party line that aligns more with your own personal values. So this is sort of a plea for you to, when you go to the voting booth, try to eliminate and ignore all the mud, because 99.9% of the information people are throwing at each other and the mud that they're throwing at each other is inaccurate. They're doing that just to influence you. Try to figure out what your core values are and which one of the two candidates, or even which one of the two parties, as you take a step back, more aligns with your own personal values. When you do that, you'll make a better decision come election time. Thank you.